What's up, Acadiana, and welcome to Offsides. I'm Shannon Wilkerson, here with Brandon Comeaux. Thanks for joining us for today's broadcast. We'll be with you until 6 o'clock. It is 4:06 right now on a very cool and breezy Thursday afternoon. When I left to come over here, it was still have some rain throughout Acadiana. Luckily, right now, it's not raining here, and when I arrived, it was just a light rain. But what was nice was there was a real breeze, a very cool breeze that was blowing. And made me want to just stay outside for the first time in several months.
Yeah, look, only 80 degrees right now. I was talking about it with one of our friends on the ESPN side who lived at this time last year in the Northeast. He's from the New England area.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was talking with Greg a few minutes ago, and I said, Greg, how do you like this, gets super hot during the day and then it kind of has a rain shower in the afternoon? I said, I'm sure y'all didn't experience anything like it. He said, yeah. I said, it's really crazy. But I said, you're fortunate because we've also had some incredibly hot summers where we've gone weeks without rain. Yeah. And I said, I'll take this every time, man. Yeah. I'll take this every time.
Yeah. The only downside is you have to cut the grass more.
I know.
So I think about that, but you get that regular rain and of course I would prefer to have it like this.
Yeah.
I would prefer to have the rain that comes, because it cools the concrete.
It does.
That's the thing. It cools off the concrete. And so anyway, okay. So going into the 4 o'clock hour, gonna have a conversation. And of course, as usual, we always invite your calls and your opinions and questions or any comments that you'd like to share at 232-1542. And if you travel a lot by airline, if you fly a lot, this really applies to you very much. My brother Gary flies a lot for personal and for business reasons. Once or twice a month he is flying, and he's miserable. Okay, and he hates to fly, and he's a tall guy, 6'4" or so. And so what this is about is that there is a proposed bill that may impact your future in flying and changes that might take place likely will. Congress is considering proposals that could affect a lot of different things. For example, one of them is that the House bill will give the FAA a year to set minimums for seat width and length and the distance between rows. Just to give you an example, right now, the average is around 28 to 30 inches from the same point in one seat to the existing point, the correlating point in the seat next to it. That has gone down from what used to be an average of 35 inches. So that'll give you just a visual of how much the seat size has gone down over the years.
Yeah.
Here's what is typical politics.
Oh, yeah.
All right? The FAA really is only requiring a study to determine whether or not there should be minimum requirements, which means that basically they're not doing anything. They're allowing the airlines to continue to reduce the size of the seats. Now, have you flown a lot? You fly?
Well, recently flying to Jamaica, yeah.
That's right. You flew to Jamaica. Okay.
Had enough of it during that trip.
Yeah, and I'm miserable flying, and we're both reasonably big guys, extra large, I guess. But I am miserable flying, and that's one of the reasons. And there is a safety issue involved because the FAA requires that a plane must be evacuated within 90 seconds. And as they jam more and more people, they have smaller aisles, less room to get in and out of your seat. And there's a safety issue there. What also strikes me as something that is not brought up or considered here is that there are health issues. Okay, you can get blood clots if you travel a lot by plane, especially if you have long flights. You're at higher risk of getting a blood clot or what's called a pulmonary embolism, which can be a very serious health problem. And so that is one of the changes or so-called changes, not even a change. They're just saying that they want the FAA to study whether or not there should be minimum requirements.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in here. And the first thing I thought about when I started delving into this article was, boy, how influential is the airline industry and the lobbyists, the airline lobbyists, the industry lobbyists with our representatives. And that's always scary when you think about the fact that there are, in a situation like this, you have an industry that a lot of times cares more about getting people jammed in so they can make as much money as possible than they do actually taking care of the customer. I mean, let's look at when you have these overbooked flights, and that was addressed in here as well. I remember the story last year, and we discussed it on the show, where you had the man that was had boarded the plane, it was overbooked, and he ended up getting dragged off the plane. Now, you know, the way that he acted, I know that I can understand some people being upset with him as well. But let's think about that. And the fact that an airline was having to drag a customer off of the plane. Yeah. You know, that's one thing that's being addressed is these overbooked flights. The House would ban airlines from bumping passengers from overbooked flights once they've boarded the plane. Okay. See, I can understand if they're not on the plane yet and it's overbooked, they know it going in, and you say, look, it's overbooked. You know, everybody's showing up. You're not going to be able to get on. We will accommodate you. But if they're seated inside the plane, they're ready to go. I think it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But this is another one of those rules that are being proposed that really caught my eye because I don't think that they should be able to bump you, period.
I agree.
Okay. You know how many seats are on the plane. Yes. All right. There are a definite amount of seats for sale. That's how many you can sell, period.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, the overbooking and bumping people, I think that should be made illegal completely. I understand what you're saying. It is an additional insult what you have gotten on the plane.
Yeah.
Okay, because then you got your baggage, you know, your luggage may be on that plane now. It may be going someplace else. You got to try to retrieve that. It's a mess. Yeah. It's embarrassing. It would be frustrating. It would make me very angry. But it would still make me angry to get bumped, period.
Yeah.
Okay, because you bought that seat. You purchased it. They've taken your money.
Yep.
If there are 100 seats on the plane, you sell 100 tickets. You don't sell 105. You don't sell 110 and then wait to see if other people don't show up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what they're doing, all right?
Yeah.
They look at an average of how many no-shows they have, and that's how many they sell over the amount of seats that they have.
It is, and I can remember saying on the Jamaica trip, I remember telling my wife, I'm like, I could never see buying an overbooked seat because of that risk that you run. I mean, that would upset me too, to spend all that money and then get kicked off the plane. I mean, I think that's terrible customer service, and it makes putting profits above the people that you're serving.
Yeah, I find that to be highly unethical, and it should be basically illegal. Yeah. And I understand the whole, okay, we're going to accommodate you, but you can't accommodate me with lost time. All right? Time is the most valuable thing. Yeah, okay, you might give me a discount on another ticket. You might upgrade me to first class on the flight that you are going to put me on. If it's the next day, you might put me up in a nice hotel. No, I want to go to my destination.
You'd be amazed, by the way, how many airlines do not put you up in a hotel.
That too.
We had that experience on the trip, and I'll tell you, the airlines that we went through did not even attempt to try to help with that. I'm just fortunate that we bought the insurance and we were able to get that resolved later on. But they didn't even try to help.
They're not required.
No, they're not. Okay,
now some of them do it in an effort for good customer service.
Yeah, you would hope
they do. Okay, some of them do, but they stepped in it in the first place. Okay, and so I don't think that they should be able to oversell those tickets. There's a certain amount of seats. That's it.
We do agree on that. Definitely.
Oh yeah. Okay, 232-1542. If you fly a lot and this affects you, we want to hear what you have to say about it. Okay, so the next one I find there are two in here that kind of correlate with one another, and I find them to be very hypocritical.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot of hypocrisy with these two. What they're doing is they want to roll back a requirement that states that airlines include government taxes and fees in the advertised price of tickets. Basically, that exists right now. In the Obama administration, they told the airlines, you must inform your customers, and I'll give it credit.
I'm all for that.
I'm all for that, okay?
I read this and
absolutely.
I said, okay, Obama administration, you did something right.
That's exactly right. Good work, former President Obama, on this one thing. All right, I'm emphasizing that because I know the phone lines are gonna explode.
All of a sudden, we're turned liberal.
This is one thing that I like that he did, all right, because I don't like those hidden fees, those hidden taxes. You buy a ticket for $300, then all of a sudden you find out that it's actually $410.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Or $415. That's ridiculous. Okay, so they are now considering rolling that back and telling the airlines you don't have to tell anybody. what it is. So you could buy a ticket for $300,
right?
And it's not necessarily $300. There are these fees, okay, and additional government taxes. However, on the flip side, there is a House bill and the Senate committee approved a version that would require online travel agencies like Expedia and Orbitz that they have to do it. Okay, they have to tell the consumer about things like extra fees. So in one case, they're telling the airlines, they want to tell the airlines, you don't have to do this. You don't have to inform your customers of how much the tickets are going to cost all in. Right. All in meaning the fees and the taxes. But they are telling Expedia and the other online booking agencies that they must do it. And so, you got to be fair across the board. Y'all got to pick one way or another. I think that they all should be required to let the consumer know exactly how much it's going to cost. But to let the airlines off the hook, now what that's going to do is it's going to give the airlines an unfair advantage because when you're shopping for a ticket, you're going to go to Expedia, and that Expedia is going to be required to include all the fees, right? So you may be looking at a $400 ticket. Then you go directly to the airline and you say, wait a minute. It's only $300 over here.
That's deceiving.
Very misleading and deceiving.
And that is a way of taking a company like Orbitz, like Expedia, that looks to find customers better prices, cheaper prices, and that for airlines is a way to undercut what they're doing and actually flip it. And like I said, that's why it's deceiving. That's why it's misleading. So this is something to really pay attention. There's some other things as well that we're going to go through as we go through the hour. But we love to hear from you, 232-1542, as we talk about some bills that are going. Well, it's actually a part of a proposed bill that's going through the legislature, through Congress right now. 232-1542. We'll take this quick break. Be right back. 80 degrees here at the Cape Town News Center, and here on Offsides, we're talking in this hour about a proposed bill that may impact your future flights. As a matter of fact, the current law authorizing operations of the FAA, that's the Federal Aviation Administration, expires on September 30th. So you've got Congress looking at a package of bills right now that deal with different areas in flight, going all the way from proposals dealing with seat size to legroom to rolling back rules that require airlines to advertise the full price of a ticket. Just lots of things that are going on that could really impact your flighting in the future. Well, I'll tell you, you mentioned we're going to get ready to go to the phone line, so callers, please hold for just a second. You mentioned seat size, and that was the first issue we brought up. Let me give you a little information that makes it even worse. As we said, on average, the seat sizes used to be around 35 inches from point A to point B, one seat to the next. Now they're down as low as 28. They average somewhere between 28 and 30 inches. That's 5 to 7, 8 inches reduction in size. Right. But as the seats get smaller over the last several decades, the passengers have gotten bigger. Okay? In 1960, the average person flying was 140 pounds. By 2016, they were 169. Okay, so people are getting bigger. All right, you know, there are more people that have weight problems. There are more people that are technically obese. But even the ones that aren't obese, on average, people are bigger. So the seat sizes have gone down by 7 or 8 inches on average, but the customer has gone up 28, almost 30 pounds bigger. Yeah, too bad they're not reducing the price of the tickets to compensate. 232-1542. All right, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead. Go ahead, caller. Yes, sir. Hello.
Yes, I'm one of those smaller passengers.
Okay. But
as far as the government making them reveal the full cost, I agree with you guys on that. But as far as them making it illegal to overbook the airlines, I don't agree on that. The private airlines, the private business, they should run their business the best way they can to make the most profit. I, like anybody else, hate being bumped on a flight, but if I was running the airline or invested in the airline, I'd want them to run those planes full. I don't want them flying these expensive planes, burning thousands of gallons of fuel in one flight with less than without all the seats being full. Yeah. But there's a free market way to work it out. If the passengers know that they're on a flight where they might be bumped, then the airlines could offer a discount if you want to be one of the ones that might possibly be bumped. But if you don't want to be bumped, you could buy a higher price ticket. They say, okay, the higher price tickets, you won't get bumped. But if you buy a lower price ticket, then there's a possibility if the plane's overbooked, you'll be bumped.
Yeah. No, I appreciate your opinion. I don't have the same opinion as you. As I said before, I think that one way for me to at least illustrate why I believe what I believe. And I appreciate what you're saying, and you make good sense. I'm not saying that your opinion doesn't hold water, okay? Because if you're going to invest those planes, they need to be full, and the airlines need to do what they can do to ensure that the planes are as full as possible, if not always full. The reason that I have my opinion is that if you were going to, let's say you were going to buy a vehicle, and the vehicle was advertised for $10,000, and you agreed to buy that vehicle, and you put a deposit on that vehicle, and then when you went to go pick up the vehicle, they said, no, we sold that same vehicle that we've contracted with you to sell to you to somebody else because they gave us $11,000. And so, although that is parallel in some ways to what you're saying, because it's the dealership's responsibility to sell those vehicles for as much as they possibly can. But if they have already committed to you to sell it to you for a certain amount of price, I think they should be held to it.
And I feel like they're breaking a promise to their customer, and they're not putting their customer first, they're putting profits first.
But I see your point. I mean, you make a good point. You know, they've got to make sure that the plane is full. But it's just one of those things we'll respectfully disagree.
Okay. Well, you're welcome to your opinion, even if you're wrong.
Yeah, I was going to ready to say the same thing to you. Thanks.
All right, 232-1542, back to the Cajun Harley Hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Gentlemen, y'all could not have done a better job. You're talking about airplane tickets, and the first commercial was Bernie advertising for a company that'll get you cheap flights. And I can't remember the name of it because I was laughing so hard that this is what y'all were talking about, and then that's the first commercial that it went to.
Smart fares, by the way, is what you were referencing.
Okay, smart fares. I just thought that was pretty ironic.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Thank you.
All right, 232-1542, go ahead.
Now, I'll tell you, talking about flights and flying, traveling like that,
right?
I have always had the opinion, now this is just one of my brainstorms, all right?
Okay.
I have always had the opinion that some big airline company should invest in airlines, in actual airplanes, and start a low budget, a low cost airline that is cargo planes, right? You know how you see these great big planes that with the military?
Right.
Okay, and there's no real accommodations. They are just completely filled with people.
Yeah.
And now the seats are small, but I don't see that they're any smaller that you might get on a regular commercial airline. But and they've got hundreds of people in these big cargo planes, and the cargo planes are completely filled with seats. I would really like to see an airline do that. A Walmart version of airlines, if you will. There's just a simple bathroom. Okay. We're not going to give you peanuts. You can't buy drinks. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, you don't have all the amenities.
You don't have all the amenities, but we can get you from point A to point B cheaper than any and everybody else, because I'll tell you, it's expensive. A lot of times we want to fly, we want to do things, we want to go on flights, and we don't do it because it's pricey.
232-1542. We go back to the Cajun Harley Hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hey, Brandon.
Hey.
Hey, I remember the last few times that I've had to fly to our corporate office down in Florida. I flew out of the big metropolitan area of Lafayette, and the sardine can that they stuck me on was only 2 seats wide. Now, I'm not a big person. I can sit in a 24-inch seat and still have room left on each side. The problem was the person they stuck beside me.
Yeah.
I was jammed between that person and the wall of the sardine can.
Oh, man.
Was this a big person you were sitting next to?
Yes.
Well, like I mentioned before, I don't know if you heard that information I shared a minute ago, but in 1960, the average customer on a flight weighed 140 pounds. Now they weigh almost 170 pounds. So as the size of the seats have reduced, the size of the passengers have increased.
Right. Yeah, I heard all that. But it's twice that has happened. And talking about a miserable freaking trip.
Yeah.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
I bet it was. I mean, that's, I can remember getting on the flight a couple months ago, and each time, and people are just getting in those flights and just hoping that someone doesn't come sit next to them because the space can be so limited.
Big, and hey, you can't pick who your neighbor is going to be.
I know.
I mean, that might be something to consider for the airlines to do. You pay extra to sit next to a skinny person.
Yeah.
It'd be worth it, right? I mean, I'm not fat shaming anybody. Okay, I want to make sure that I don't get in any trouble.
You don't have to be fat to be big. You can just be a big person.
Well, wait till the phones keep ringing. Okay, someone's going to be mad at me for saying that. Trust me. All right, someone's going to be mad at me for saying that. But that could be an incentive. Okay, skinny seats for skinny people, half the price.
That would work.
Yeah. Thank you,
caller.
Caller.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hey guys, nice to talk to you again. I try to call when I can, but I will say, what the government's doing is really just telling me forget flying altogether. They seem to get involved and make things worse. And like you said earlier, Obama did do a good thing. I got to give him a good kudos just for that. So
yeah. Here, you see, we're not just Obama bashers and haters. There's something right there that we all agree he did a good job with. Now I'm trying to look for something else, but for now that's good.
Thank you, caller. All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, guys.
Hey.
I'm with the caller before this one where the weight. You ought to pay for your flight by the weight, by the pound. $1 a pound, $2 a pound. If you weigh 500 pounds and it's going to cost you $2 a pound to get on the plane.
Oh, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it costs them so much a pound to get that bird off the ground with you in it. And they know that cost.
Yeah.
So
you're going to need really good lawyers for that one.
But that's a very interesting idea.
It is interesting.
Though,
yeah, it is very interesting. Yeah, $1 a pound. Well, different rates for different flights.
Yeah.
But everybody's charged the same rate, depending on where you're going.
Maybe it wouldn't happen throughout the whole, all the airline companies, but you could have one, kind of like what you were talking about earlier.
A cargo
system.
Yeah.
But do that with people and look, what you're getting when you use their services. And you could say, hey, look, maybe they give me a cheaper rate if I weigh less.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Now, have you ever flown, or caller, you or Brandon, have either one of you ever flown first class?
Yes, I have.
I have not.
Okay, well, I'll tell you, I've never flown first class, but a good friend of mine does not like flying, and he's very successful. Mm-hmm. He's done very well, and now he's to the point in his career he's got to fly regularly, but he will not fly unless it's first class and nonstop. So when he flies out of Lafayette, when he needs to leave Lafayette, he will either drive to New Orleans or to Houston so he can fly nonstop. And he always goes first class. And now he's got the money, but it's like triple the cost.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir. Hey, the other thing is your carry-on, if you can't lift it up and put it in a bin above your head, you can't bring it on. These people that looks like they're carrying half their house with them, trying to get that. They drop it on your head, and, it's like, if you can't lift it high enough, don't bring it.
Yeah, I agree.
We agree.
Good point right there. Unless you're a senior. How about that? That's a good, let's agree on that. If you're a senior, I think that would be the exception. All right, y'all keep your fun phone calls coming in. We're getting some really good feedback from you, 232-1542. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Offsides, everybody. Shannon Wilkerson here with Brandon Comeaux. We're having a conversation about some new rules and regulations that are going to be implemented or possibly implemented when it comes to airline flights. The FAA is going to be required to do some things and maybe not required to do some things that they currently do. Got some callers been patiently waiting. We appreciate that. Let's go to the phone line and see what they have to say.
All right, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jeff in Tucson, Louisiana.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, what's up?
Is there a record for the heaviest suitcase?
I don't know. I don't know.
25 years ago, I was flying from London Heathrow to a country in Africa, and a lady in front of me, and I'm gonna treat her nice and say lady. She weighed over 300 pounds. Her suitcase weighed 163 pounds. They told her excess baggage charge would be over $600.
Oh, what did she have in there?
She could have had 2 children. I don't know, but the suitcase was about 5.5 feet long. It was up above her waist when it was sitting on the ground. It was huge.
Mm-hmm.
It was a leather suitcase.
What was that important? What was that important that you would have to take all that on a trip? Man.
No, you never
know. Guess, come to find out, I found out later she had a store in a country in Africa, and it was a bunch of school supplies to sell in her store. So it was a commercial bag.
Oh, wow. And she was able to get away with it?
No, they wouldn't let her on the flight.
They wouldn't let her on the
plane. She couldn't pay the excess baggage amount.
Wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thank you,
wow. Good story.
Yeah, good story.
It was so suspicious that the customs people wanted to look in her suitcase.
Did they?
Yes.
Okay, well.
They pulled her aside and said they wanted to talk to her.
Good Lord. All right, thanks for the call.
Thank you, caller. All
right, so another one that they're talking about comes back around to, again, extra fees. The Senate bill would prohibit airlines from charging what they call unreasonable ticket change or cancellation fees. The airlines raised more than $7.4 billion last year from fees on checked baggage and cancellations. Mm-hmm. But once again, they fall short. Yeah. Okay? They say unreasonable, but they don't define what unreasonable is. And so it seems to be very subjective. They don't seem to be very specific, because right now they're not saying whether or not the fees that are currently being charged are unreasonable.
Yeah.
What they may be having the opinion that what's being charged right now is reasonable, but they don't want them to go up any higher. Mm-hmm. So, not very clear.
232-1542, before we go back to the phone lines, here's one that is maybe the most controversial of all, and really, you're talking about safety. I mean, this is at the top of the list. When it comes to co-pilots, first off, there's one of the provisions in the bill that is basically being opposed by safety experts for good reason, where basically they would let cargo airlines use one pilot instead of 2. Mm-hmm. Okay, so of course in an emergency, one pilot could be more easily overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Okay, and then here's on the other side as well. Okay, so here's even worse. So basically, after a 2009 accident near Buffalo, New York, Congress raised the minimum from 250 hours to 1,500 hours after 50 people died in a crash. Well, basically, now the RAA, which is the Regional Airline Association, whose members, they operate smaller planes, flying under the banners of like American Eagle, Delta Connection, United Express. So basically, the RAA supports a proposal that would let pilots count time on certain types of training in a classroom or a flight simulator.
Yeah,
so that's less air experience, but they can count classroom time and a flight simulator towards that 1,500 hours.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
Yeah, no, I don't like either one of those. Lowering the standards on training and prep time, and also potentially lowering the standards on safety when they're in the air.
Yeah.
Now, I can see them being able to try to justify that. Okay, because if these are cargo planes, mm-hmm. if these are, what we're talking about is UPS, mm-hmm. Federal Express, you just got nothing but packages in there. Mm-hmm. Remember Castaway?
Yeah, I remember that.
Basically mm-hmm. that. Mm-hmm. And so the airlines could, and I'll tell you who would probably be very supportive of that change mm-hmm. are the pilots themselves. Mm-hmm. Because the airlines could then pay the pilots considerably more and save a considerable amount of money. Let's just use this. What's that?
Well, it's interesting you bring it up because the pilot unions are actually the ones that are fighting against using only one pilot instead of 2.
Well, those are the unions.
Yes.
Okay, those are the unions. I'm talking about the individual pilots themselves.
Gotcha.
Let's just use this as an example. Mm-hmm. Let's say we're co-pilots. Okay. Shannon and Brandon, we're flying around the world. Okay, we work for UPS or Federal Express, mm-hmm. and we both get paid $500 a day.
Right.
Just an example, all right? And so when they are paying the two of us to do this, to fly from here to there, it's going to cost them $1,000, right?
Right.
But if they split us up, they can give one of us $750. All right. So you'd be flying one plane. I'd be flying. They could give each one of us a 50% raise and be saving a chunk of money. And so that's how I think how some pilots would be very supportive of it because, if the plane's going to go down, the plane's going to go down. Shannon's not going to be able to save the plane, but the stressful situation could make a difference. But I'm just giving you an example of how I think the airlines are supportive of it, but the pilots could also be supportive of it because everybody could get a raise and the airlines could save money.
232-1542. Let's head back to the Cajun Harley hotline. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a reason why they had co-pilots for all these years, even in the very first, whenever they were called navigators. We know if that guy gets a heart attack up there, my grandfather died when he was 45 of a massive heart attack. So it doesn't matter by age. You could get a physical today and die tomorrow. So
that's true.
If there's one pilot up there, that thing could come down in the neighborhood or in a mall, wherever. You know?
And that's
the flight plan would. I could see how the flight plan could be a negotiating tool.
Yeah.
Okay, because they could They could say, okay, well, if you do this for us, we'll adjust the flight plan to where we do not fly over heavily populated areas. But you're right. That's not good. One guy's up there. He has a heart attack. The flight goes down. It could kill a lot of people.
Well, it could kill a lot of people, even if it's just a cargo plane. But also, just the pilot himself. I mean, if a pilot's having a heart attack. And the flight goes down, well, at least you'd have a co-pilot there to help, fix the situation, maybe be able to save that person who had the heart attack, as opposed to that person just completely dying because they can't do anything and then they crash.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if they crash into the ocetion.
Sure, that's exactly right. The co-pilot could put it on autopilot, administer CPR, change the flight plan to get to a hospital or nearby or the closest airport. I mean, it's definitely safer, and we should have two pilots.
Yeah. 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I am a pilot. I'm not a commercial pilot. But you see, all right. Yeah, y'all talking about changing the hours to 250 hours?
Well, basically, they raising it from 250 to 1,500. They did that almost 10 years ago, and then now basically they would take certain types of training in the classroom or a flight simulator and start counting that towards the 1,500 hours.
Yeah, but you see, it's like you need to have your hours in the aircraft. But it's 250 for a commercial. All right. So I think what I understand, you wanted to build it up to 1,500 for a commercial. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Now the cost of that right now, for just a regular flight, it's $120 an hour. If you just to get your hours, that's unbelievable amount of money just to make it 250. If you bump it up to 1,500 hours, there's no way anybody's going to be able to afford that. They're going to have to go through companies. And that's going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
So,
or military. The majority of the pilots then would be pilots that were trained in the military.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, like me, I get my hours, and like I said, I'm not a pilot by profession, but I got my hours, and it's unbelievably expensive nowadays.
Yeah.
Now, you're also talking about the co-pilot situation.
Yes, sir.
Now, trying to go to one pilot, I'm thinking of safety here. Now, today's aircraft, when you're doing it, there is such a heavy load of thinking and weather and things of that nature. You got to have two pilots. You're not flying a Cessna 172. You're flying a DC, whatever it is nowadays, 747. Even if it's a cargo run, you have to have two pilots just to carry the load. One switch in the wrong place, everybody dies. You need to have two pilots, and I think that's not going to work out. Saving the money, the airlines are not going to sit there and pay a pilot more money.
Yeah.
And pay them the same amount. And it's just too much of a risk.
And that's what I would worry about too, because I thought Shannon's idea was a great one, but in an airline, about being able to pay, say if you pay $500 to two pilots, we're paying $750 to one.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea, but if we're talking about a business that is, or an industry that's so concerned with getting as much money as they can out of its customers, why would we believe they're going to take care of their workers?
Now, well, in fairness, all companies are like that. The majority of all companies are trying to make as much as they can.
Of course.
Okay. But when you take safety out of the situation, when you jeopardize safety to do that, that's a different argument.
Absolutely.
And I was just using that as an example of how the airlines might, how some pilots might be very supportive of it if the airlines presented that scenario to them.
Yeah, but the load on the pilot, even as a single engine aircraft, there is a lot more involved in it. It's complicated. Now, in a large aircraft, the load is unbelievable. So I don't think I'd be a smart idea to get rid of having one pilot, even though it's a cargo plane, because it's just too complicated. Can you imagine if you look at the dashboard on an airplane, 747? Oh my God, it's crazy.
Yeah,
so,
I hear you.
I just wanted to pull out that point of view.
Thank you, sir.
Brother, thank you.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Good to hear from a pilot.
All right, we'll go ahead and take this quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the discussion as we talk about some of the proposed legislation that could really impact the way you fly in the future. We'll be right back.
Offsides, everybody. Wrapping up the 4 o'clock hour, talking about some changes that might take place. Certainly some of them will take place with the FAA, and this means that if you fly at all, or especially if you fly regularly, it could certainly affect your happiness up in the air. Let's go to the phone lines. Got some people patiently waiting.
All right, caller, you are on the air. Go ahead.
Is that me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, this little boy's not getting on a plane without a co-pilot. I want 2 people up there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's number one. But how about they do this? If they raise the rules from 250 hours to whatever, or they raise the rules from 500 hours to whatever, how about the co-pilot has a lower number of hours? In other words, you've got to get 250 hours to qualify as a co-pilot, and then you fly with a pilot or with 2 or 3 pilots as your supervisors until you get to whatever the mandatory number of hours is.
Yeah.
And you get paid less to be a co-pilot than the captain.
I think something like that already exists. I think that co-pilots, although they may have completed the hours, they don't have as much airtime, flying these commercial flights. The co-pilot, because there's definitely a tier system and a hierarchy. And there's a difference. There's a difference between a co-pilot and a pilot.
Yeah, I would get on a plane with, a co-pilot's got 250 hours and say, in the 1 in a million chance that the plane starts to go down or that the pilot has a heart attack, I trust that guy with more than 250 hours to get me home. I would do that. But I got news. You can pay the other guy $1 gazillion a flight. If there's not a co-pilot, I don't want to get on the plane, because if that pilot has a heart attack, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
So that's it, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's a good one.
All right, 232-1542. And by the way, just in case some people came late, because we know some people might have been working during the first half of the show, we've spent some time talking about the pilots and the hours and such, but there's a couple of other ones that we want to remind some of our listeners of that are a part of these bills dealing with all of the rules and the rollbacks and all that stuff. So a couple of them, basically airline seats. The room between the rows. Basically what they're talking about now is how they've been shrinking for years, where they've gone from 34 to 35 inches between the seats in the aisles, now to under 30 inches on the plane. And that's one thing that's being addressed. Advertised prices. This was a big one, actually. Advertised prices, where in 2012, the Obama administration required airlines to include government taxes and fees in the advertised price of a ticket. Well, airlines opposed the rule then. They've been lobbying ever since. And now they're hoping to get to roll that back, where they can put the price before all the fees and taxes go into place, which is deceptive to the person buying the ticket.
Very deceptive. But at the same time, now they want to implement a rule that requires online purchases. People like companies like Expedia, they want to hold them to the same standard that exists right now. So what you're going to have is a company like Expedia will be required to disclose all of those additional fees and taxes when you buy a ticket. But the airlines will not have to do that. They will not have to disclose that. So that would give a very unfair advantage to the airlines over companies like Expedia. And so I think they need to all disclose all of the costs.
And one more before we go back to the phone lines. Overbooked flights. The House version would ban airlines from bumping passengers from overbooked flights once they have boarded the plane.
Yeah. And we both express our opinion about that. Yeah. I don't think that they should be able to bump you at all, even before you get on the plane. I don't think that you've got a specific amount of seats. That's how many seats you sell. That's it.
232-1542, back to the Cajun Harley hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Overbooking of flights is a bunch of hooey. And it's the fact that they're going to let airlines, or I should say, make the online guys, disclose fees and not the airlines. I think it has to do with maybe the airlines paying off some lobbyists to get this stuff, under the table, if you will. I mean, that's what it seems like to me.
Well, I mean, anybody's red flags would fly up when you're talking about all of this, and you're talking about rolling back provisions that provided more safety for passengers. No doubt about that. I mean, that's one of the first things I thought about when I was looking through this as well, is how much are lobbyists having control up there when it comes to our legislators listening to lobbyists with lobbyists as opposed to their constituents.
Unfortunately, with this and I believe all existing issues in Washington, the lobbyists have a lot of control of what's going on. And as much as I don't like him, I remember, I think it was Bernie Sanders that said, always follow the money. And it's true.
Well, he ain't a poor man either.
No, he's not. He's making over $1 million a year now.
Yeah.
Okay, he is now cranking over $1 million a year.
Big hypocrite.
Yep.
232-1542 caller. Well, never mind. Well, we just lost that caller. But that's all right. That's about the end of the hour anyway. We needed to wrap it up. All right. Well, we're wrapping up this discussion, but we've got a brand new one lined up for you in the 5 o'clock hour. First, though, you've got your Fox News at the top of the hour. Also, you've got weather and traffic. You're listening to Offsides News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
What's up, Acadiana, and welcome to Offsides. I'm Shannon Wilkerson here with Brandon Comeaux. Thanks for joining us for today's broadcast. We'll be with you until 6 o'clock. It's currently 5:08 on a kind of a cooler than normal Thursday afternoon. As I was mentioning earlier, Brandon and I were talking about at the beginning of the 4 o'clock hour. It's not raining right now, but we've had some rain on and off throughout the afternoon. And as I was arriving here at Town Square, we actually had some breeze. And so it was a little tease, a little breeze tease.
Yeah, a little breeze tease.
And so a little fall tease that, sooner or later it'll be over. So we will evade hell.
Yeah, no. So one of our friends, Bruce Michaels at 97.3 The Dog, wrote this great article that we have on our website talking about Saharan dust and how some of the Saharan dust is moving in for the weekend, but it's actually a good thing because what Saharan dust does is it keeps those tropical storms and hurricanes at bay. So we've got some of that warmer air that's kind of coming in, and it's a very fascinating article about it. You'll want to check it out, kpel965.com.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's really intriguing to think about that all the dust came all the way over from the
Africa,
Sahara. Yeah, traveled across the ocean just to hang out with us. Okay, so Brandon, when you went to high school, when you graduated from high school and or junior high, grammar school, whatever.
Yeah.
Did they have uniforms? Did you have to wear uniforms?
Absolutely.
Okay, now big difference here because there was no uniforms in public schools when I went to school. And so when we went to school, pretty much everybody just wore jeans and T-shirts.
Yeah.
And tennis shoes, and if you were well off, you had the nice tennis shoes. But other than the tennis shoes, everybody had just jeans and T-shirts.
Right.
Very few people wore anything different. And the ones that dressed nicely, we called them preppies.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's a term we don't really hear anymore. Well, then they implemented uniforms, school uniforms. And when that happened, of course, I was out of school by then. But then my son started school, and uniforms, got to go buy the uniforms. And I thought that it was I think that school uniforms is a good idea. I'm supportive of that.
Right.
Well, after now a few decades have gone by, there are some counties nationwide that are revisiting that idea. Apparently they get a lot of feedback, negative feedback from the students, and they want to involve the students in the decision-making procedure. Bad idea. Okay, there's a reason we use the term children.
Yes.
And they are getting a lot of complaints. They got consistent complaints from especially the girls, because the girls believed that the school uniforms, they were more strictly enforced against the female student body. I don't know if I believe that. There was some examples that were cited, and so nevertheless, go ahead. I could believe it and I don't think it's necessarily unfair, but I could believe it that it's more strictly enforced with girls because, I mean, you just look at a girl and you look at a guy, there are different areas where, I'm trying to think how to say this. Well, there's sexuality involved. There's sexuality involved, of course. And you're talking about, girls' body parts compared to guys, and there's just more going on. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot more going on. If a guy comes to school and he's wearing a shirt that's too small for him, you say, look, what are you wearing, your little brother's shirts, trying to show off your muscles? If a girl does the same thing, you've got a different perception of a dress code violation. Right. And so, yes, I can definitely see how that is a likely problem. Just to give you a few examples, there are definitely some counties that are making some changes. For example, what a coincidence, in Oregon, all right, Alameda will try this year, and they're going to be doing some different things. The students must wear button tops, shoes, and opaque material that covers genitals, buttocks, and areola areas, the nipples. Clothing that depicts hate speech, violence, illegal activity, or pornography. Headgear that covers the face except for religious reasons, and visible underwear except for waistbands or straps are all prohibited. But the items that are allowed, this is what got me, the items that are allowed include pajamas, crop tops, tube tops, hoodies, ripped jeans, and hats. And so that is an example of what is now going to be acceptable in some areas. Let me tell you why they should not do this. Okay. I'm sure that you'll agree with me when I get through this. Okay. All right. Now, especially now, children, young people are so inundated with what's going on socially and politically. They are very overly opinionated politically and socially. Mix that with being overly sensitive, because they're very sensitive now. Remember we talked about the overly sensitive society that we live in now, that when you start opening the door for them to wear what they want, T-shirts or anything like that, even though they might not have specific hate speech on there, you are opening the door for a lot of people to make innuendo, make political statements, and other people getting very upset about it. Yeah. Where are the adults? That's what we talk about this from time to time in education, in the college ranks, where they're giving more and more power to the students. And now we're talking about in the schools as well. I get sick and tired of hearing students complain about uniforms. I had uniforms going all through school. And you know what? Uniforms, in my opinion, are a very good thing. Now, there are some people that disagree with that, and it's okay, because they have certain feelings about it. But if you're gonna change a uniform up because a student feels uncomfortable wearing it, in the sense, not from a comfort level, but a sense of because they just don't like it, it's ridiculous in my opinion, because what's happening here is they're basically saying, hey, we want to give the students more of a voice. We want to let them get more involved in rules that are being made when they're not the adults. The adults are supposed to be the adults, and I feel like what the adults are trying to do in this society of, well, let's let them express themselves, and let's let them free thinking and share their feelings. Well, what they're doing is they're giving up power as adults. They're giving some of that power to these kids, and unfortunately, these kids are going to take advantage of that. And you see, as a matter of fact, let me get to this part right here too before we go to the phone lines. What I think is even more funny than what you just talked about is what happens if a student violates any of the rules. Basically, the code states that loss of class time should be kept to a minimum. They cannot be forced to wear someone else's clothing. Parents should not be called, and students should not be shamed by being addressed in front of classmates. So basically, if students are violating the rules, they're basically taking away all these different forms of punishment that are meant to keep them in line. And they're not even going to call them out. They're going to pass them a note or something like that. Now, looking back on high school, junior high school, grade school, I can't think that I would have much of an opinion. Okay. Looking back on junior high school and high school, I can definitely think that I would have mixed opinion. I can have mixed opinions about it, because I would have liked to have worn, I liked being able to wear my Led Zeppelin T-shirt and my Rush 2112 T-shirt and my Saints T-shirts and things like that. However, I can definitely look back on especially high school and see the advantages of everybody wearing a uniform and how it would take a lot of stress over what am I going to wear? Do I look cool wearing this or not?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody's wearing the same thing, and so I don't have to worry about that anymore. And so it would take away your individuality while you're in school, but it would also take away the peer pressure of whether or not you look good wearing what you're wearing. Because, I can definitely see how it would benefit the students in that way. But I can also see students saying, no, I want to be able to wear what I want to wear.
Yeah.
I would probably be split.
Yeah. 232-1542. We'd love to get some callers in on the conversation. All right, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Y'all just hit the point I was going to make. To me, the uniform takes away their individuality. But see, I graduated in '84, so I didn't have no uniform.
Same thing with me. I graduated in '84, same year.
And I don't know. It's just I guess since I didn't have to do it, it just don't seem right to me.
Let me ask this. Okay, are we worried about the individuality of a teenager that's working at a store down the road where they've got to wear a uniform that identifies them as a store worker? I mean, do we have to worry about their individuality suffering because they're wearing a uniform?
Oh no, that's a total different story.
Yeah,
you're getting paid for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're going to school. Well, I can understand all the points y'all made earlier.
Well, because school's supposed to be something that's supposed to help you prepare you for life. You're talking about getting a job outside of school that's helping prepare you for a facet of life.
Yeah.
Not everybody at every job wears uniforms, obviously, but for jobs that do, many of those jobs are what teenagers end up getting to be able to make some money when they're young. Yeah. They wear uniforms a lot of times.
Yeah, I hear you. And I can definitely see how teenagers would be supportive of that position. But I think that one of the differences to consider is that when you go into a school setting, you don't have to find out when you go into an environment where somebody is working, the customer needs to know who works there. Okay, so if somebody's walking around and they've got a uniform on, you can identify them as the person that you need to ask a question to or address an issue or place an order, okay, as opposed to just somebody walking around with a Led Zeppelin t-shirt. Well, go on, caller.
Great show.
Thank you very much.
Caller. All right, 232-1542. All right, caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, when you're working at a place, that's a voluntary agreement contract. You were presented with that before you started, so you've agreed to this. And with these uniforms, I just think we're trying to teach our little students how to be good little socialists and be all the same and all equal. And what the heck is hate speech? When has this become the lexicon of in our language? I never heard that growing up.
What, hate speech?
Hate speech.
Yeah, well, it's a new term. It's one of those it's one of those sexy new cool terms to use that they use but it's the same thing. When we were growing up, if you're around my age, if you're like in middle age, say, what they're using to identify hate speech now, it existed then. They just didn't call it that.
Yeah, I wonder why they're using hate speech all of a sudden.
I don't know, man.
Kind of rhymes with the first thing, with the little socialism, and I don't know. It just seems like it's all just going straight down that direction, and I don't like it.
Okay, so I want to clarify what you're saying. So, is it your opinion that the uniforms in school are a step towards or more identified with a socialist environment?
It kind of gets them used to being all alike,
being all conformed. I see what you're saying. I don't agree with you, but Brandon and I do a lot of shows on how how our society is moving in that direction where they want everybody equal in every way. Okay, they want everybody to have the same amount of money, everybody to have the same size car, the same type of car, the same size house, and there's a lot of people out there that are supportive of that, but the downside is that everybody's going to be dressing alike and they're going to look like the students. I don't think so. I mean,
for the record, for 10 years I went to a private school where we wore uniforms, and the classes taught heavily against socialism.
Well, I'll tell you,
so they weren't trying to make us little socialists.
I agree. Well, I'll tell you, when I was growing up, when you saw somebody in a uniform, that meant they were rich.
Yeah.
Okay, that meant that they could afford to go to private or Catholic school, and so they had money.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and take this quick commercial break. When we come back, we'd love to hear from you. See, the phone lines are lit up right now. We'll go ahead and take this quick commercial break. Be right back. Having a great conversation about school uniforms and what's going on out west in California and Oregon, where some school districts are actually changing their dress codes in response to student complaints. Now, got a message over the commercial break from a police officer, and this is what he has to say about school uniforms. He says school uniforms help against bullies for lower income kids, which is a great point there, the one that I thought of. But he said it also lets cops and teachers know in this day and age if a person is not supposed to be on campus. And he's mentioned that there's a video that he uses on YouTube for his concealed carry class where the guy has baggy pants and baggy shirts, and he has 12 guns concealed in his clothes. So it's something to think about, too, when you're talking about all these school shootings that are happening, where if you've got students with very relaxed dress codes that can come in carrying all kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's true. And I'll tell you another benefit that it has to police and others as well, but police, so since we're talking about police for a second, if the police see somebody or somebody witnesses a student commit a crime and they are still in their school uniform, the police will be able to identify what school they went to by the description and the color of the uniform.
Good point.
Okay, so as opposed to if they've got their Led Zeppelin t-shirt on. Okay, so if the school has khaki pants and blue shirt, then that narrows the search for the police as to where to go look for them.
Absolutely. 232-1542. We go back to the Cajun Harley hotline. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
You actually took away the first point I was going to make is the safety issue of identifying who should be on school and who shouldn't. The second point I had was that you take away the rules issue about what to wear and what not to wear. It limits that haziness and that obscurity and that policy because, how many students will push the limits onto what they can wear. And the third point I had to make was, have y'all heard anything about the school district in Atlanta removing the Pledge of Allegiance from the schools?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah. Well, we might have to take that topic up another day.
Yeah, I think
thank
so.
you, caller.
I wonder if they still have to wear uniforms. That's what I want to know.
All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hello.
Oh, yeah. All right. Is it me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is you.
Nobody told me. Okay.
We just told you. Go ahead. You're on, buddy.
Well, you also told me. All right, go ahead. Take me off there. Y'all told me that, too, and you had somebody else on.
What? I don't know what you're talking about, but you're on the air now. Do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I do. But I was on the phone waiting for y'all.
Okay, all right. We're not going to keep having that.
Yeah, no.
Come on, man.
Listen, we don't have, for the record, Brandon and I do not have a screener. I know that some of the callers, some of the listeners get a little frustrated because they're holding on, the phone is ringing, and they don't, because with some other shows here on KPEL, there's a screener. Yeah. Okay? And so you've got somebody that answers the phone and says, okay, you're about to go on, and they get some instructions or something. Brandon and I don't have a screener, and so you go straight from phone ringing to on the air. And so just wanted to clarify that. But go on.
All right, so we have another caller on the line. And we do want to mention, though, by the way, if we get any problem callers, we do have an area to be able to keep numbers so we can tell who's messing with us. So we do want people to know that now.
Yeah.
Look,
see, that didn't exist when I was younger either. You didn't have caller ID.
Don't try and prank call us or nothing like that.
It used to be fun to call people and just hang up.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go back to the Cajun Harley hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Okay, it's me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I keep hearing about all this stuff about all these people that wear, uniforms and all this. You should have grown up during the 70s. I mean, in high school, we couldn't have our hair touching our collars or anything like that. We had to wear wigs or we had it ponied up. So, I mean, it just keeps on and keeps on and keeps on. Uniforms is nothing. you used to have to dry shave if you had too much facial hair.
Yeah. Now, did you go to a private or a Catholic school?
I went to a private school for a while, but then I went to a public school in high school.
Oh, okay. Because when I was in high school, there was no. I went to a public school. There was no uniforms, but there was also no restrictions on the length of your hair. So you had, hippies and guys with really long hair, and you had guys that, if you were able to grow a full beard, that's cool in high school.
Right, but in the 70s, they made us have our hair couldn't touch your collar. That was when they came out in the 70s with all that. So if you tried to pony up and you used a rubber band and pony up, whatever they wanted to call it, so it wouldn't touch your. Well, they found a loophole in that. So the next thing we had to do was wear a wig. So, I mean, it's always going to be something.
You're right.
But, I mean, I just want to make that point. But, it could be, nowadays we raise so many pansies out there that can't even go out there and, they're going to wear really pajamas to school now.
Well, and I think this only
pajamas
plays
and tube tops.
Yeah,
okay.
I think this only plays into that.
Yeah.
Because we're afraid of their feelings being hurt because they got to wear uniforms. I think uniforms help with being able to install that order. Look, I know that your generation grew up not wearing uniforms and y'all turned out just fine.
Yeah, I was fine.
But I think at the same time, I do think uniforms help provide order, and it provides something that's easier to be enforced.
I agree completely, and I'll tell you, it was different then. Okay, because now, as I mentioned before, people are so overly sensitive to every little thing that there's going to be constant conflict about why this person has able to wear that T-shirt and I'm not able to wear my T-shirt.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. What's going to happen when some kids show up with a T-shirt with an American flag on it, and some kids show up with a T-shirt with a Mexican flag on it? Okay, you're going to have nothing but conflict there.
What about a kid that shows up with a Make America Great Again shirt?
Or even worse, now you're going to have potential violence.
Yes.
Okay, this kid's going to be putting his safety at risk. And so, I grew up without uniforms, but I'm supportive of them now. I think that it's, for one of the main reasons is because it is easier on the parents. All the parents need to do to prep for school, get the beginning of the school year, is to know what size their kid wears.
Yeah.
You don't even have to go shopping with them. All right? You can go on your own. You get the list of you can wear khakis, you wear blue pants, red shirt, white shirt, whatever. You go right up. And all these stores now they have specific sections. All right, and all these different brands, or rather brands that have the specific requirements of the local schools are all categorized together.
Yeah.
It's very efficient. You go buy it, and you don't have to worry about your kids' feelings getting hurt because you can't buy them the shirt that they want. You don't have to worry about making them happy or aggravating them because they can't get what they want, or you want to buy them something different. It's all uniformed, thus the term.
Yeah.
And I'm very supportive of it.
It's also good for businesses that specialize in uniforms, obviously. 232-1542. All right, let's go back to the Cajun Harley hotline. Caller, you are on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, gentlemen, how y'all doing?
Hey.
Good.
So I wanted to chime in on one of the calls that y'all had earlier. A gentleman was talking about the baggy clothing, a video he uses for concealed carry where they had 12 firearms on them.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You got to think of functionality, right? So, yes, you can conceal a lot of firearms. I teach concealed carry and everything else. This is Caleb, by the way, Brandon.
Oh, hey, Caleb.
So you're not going to be able to function in life and moving around with that many on you. It's normally a smaller number of firearms. The problem that I have with uniforms, and truthfully, I don't have a dog in the fight on this, and I really am indifferent to it. But if you're going to do uniforms and you think of it as a security protocol, when you go buy a school uniform, my kids go to private school. If I go to buy a uniform for their school, do you have to show ID or proof of going to that school? No,
good point. Yeah.
You can walk in and buy any pattern, any color, whatever, and go right into it. It's happening in law enforcement, military all the time. We had it in Afghanistan about 3-4 years ago, where some threats got a hold of military uniforms, and they actually performed a raid and stole about 12 Humvees on a military installation.
Wow.
So if it can happen to the military, it can happen anywhere else, too.
Yeah, well, what comes to mind, you ever see that movie Catch Me If You Can?
Very true.
This guy. Yeah, and he was able to just get pilot's uniforms, and then he was able to pose as a pilot. He's flying all over the world.
So, I mean, it does play a small security thing, but I wouldn't use that as an argument for or against it, honestly.
Yeah. Okay,
all right, Caleb, appreciate it. You can listen to Caleb on Friday mornings, Firearm Friday, here on News Talk 96.5 KPL. Yeah, that Caleb.
Oh, all right, I gotcha.
All right.
All right, y'all, we'll be right back here on Offsides. Keep your calls coming in, 232-1542, the Cajun Harley Hotline. All right, everybody, time for Cajun Harley Davidson. Cajun Harley Davidson now has a new offer called Warranty Forever. Warranty Forever provides a lifetime limited powertrain warranty. This warranty is included in every new and pre-owned bike under 5 years old and is at no additional cost to the buyer.
Also, Cajun Harley-Davidson is the only Harley-Davidson dealership in the state of Louisiana that has the Warranty Forever program. Now, regular maintenance is required, so make sure you go into Cajun Harley-Davidson and discuss the details with one of the awesome sales team members.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity if you're in the market to buy a motorcycle. And if you're in the market to buy a motorcycle, you should be in the market to buy a Harley-Davidson.
There you go.
All right, so getting back to what we're talking about, and that's uniforms, school uniforms, and, Brandon and I are perfect match to be discussing this because when I went to high school, no uniforms. When Brandon went to high school, uniforms.
Yes.
And so I think that we are a good pair to be discussing the pros and cons from both sides. Mm-hmm. And as we both have agreed, I think that we both agree that we're better off with the uniforms for a lot of different reasons. We've discussed, security. We've discussed peer pressure. Mm-hmm. We've discussed the load that it takes off of the parents. The financial load and the practicality of it. The parents can just go buy. There's no question about what you're going to buy, what you're going to wear. You wear these pants, this belt, this shirt. Mm-hmm. That's it. Done.
Yeah. As a teacher, and I know that teachers generally hate to have to enforce clothing rules because they just want to teach.
Yes.
But as a teacher, if I had to choose, I would much rather have kids in a uniform, whereas when it's a lot more subjective whenever students can wear pretty much whatever they want, as opposed to a uniform, which I would think would be less distracting. Because, see, some of these students on here are trying to argue that it's more distracting to have uniforms, which is just, it is ridiculous.
Listen, I don't blame them, okay? As a teenager, I believe, like I said, I'd be on the fence. There would be days that I would definitely want to dress the way I wanted to dress. Mm-hmm. You're going through a very important chapter of your life, and your body is changing, your mind is changing, everything about you is changing, and you want to express who you are.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's how you do it. You express who you are with what kind of shirt you're wearing.
Yes. 232-1542. All right, back to the Cajun Harley Hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey.
Shannon, real quick, I think it is up for debate whether or not you turned out all right, but we can have another segment on that.
Hey, listen, I have no doubt about it. I didn't.
Well, I actually, when I was in third grade was when my school started implementing the uniform policy. So I was kind of caught up in that transition period, and of course, we were all against it at first, but looking back on it and, seeing a lot of how people are, I think it is a really good thing because not only does it, do the things that you guys mentioned already, but I found it gave the students a sense of camaraderie almost. It's like, we don't want to wear these uniforms, but we're in it together, and we all look the same anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's something different to consider. I agree. I can definitely see your point.
Yeah, and especially since it always comes in school colors, kind of helps you rep your school a little bit if you're into that sort of thing.
Sure.
All
right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
All right, 232-1542, back to the Cajun Harley Hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, that would be me?
That would be you.
Yes, hello.
Okay. Yeah, well, I have a special feeling about all this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm older than y'all, apparently, and I went from Texas to New Orleans to Jackson, Mississippi in elementary school. So it was one of those transitional things anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And what I saw, and we lived on the corner in New Orleans by the Catholic school, so I saw the kids in the uniforms.
Mm-hmm. Which school?
McDonough 39.
Okay, go on.
Okay, and when I got to Jackson, though, I'm from a large family, and we got clothes in the spring and in the fall, and they came from that place called Montgomery Ward or Spiegel. or Sears.
Sears.
And you bought Spears.
Yeah, Sears. I remember.
Yeah, and or J.C. Penney, depending on who we didn't have credit with.
Yeah, right. Or who had the sale.
Yes, and you bought for the family, and then, of course, you got hand-me-downs, too. So when I went to school with all these different schools, being the new kid every time, that's helped me in life. I've learned to get along with people a lot better. But you got into a school. I see the purpose of a uniform. So the friends of mine that went to Pearson's for Dad and Lad, and I'm getting from Spiegel or Montgomery Ward, there's a difference there. You feel like you're a different class set. And I know that's what they're trying to eliminate, and I find that good. However, here I'm torn because on the other side, you got these people that can't afford to buy clothes but twice a year or for school and so forth, but then they got to buy those clothes in addition to the uniforms. And you put a real strain on the...
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting point because when I wore clothes, when I was growing up, just like yourself, no uniforms whatsoever, but I would wear those same clothes all day long, okay, from start to finish. And you're right. I can see the point now that this can put a financial burden on some families because now they've got to buy additional clothes that are specifically and only for school because those kids are not going to wear them when they're home from school. They want to change.
Right. You got to go in and change your clothes now. And it's kind of like what the old days we used to call it the Sunday go to meeting clothes. Yeah. You go to church and then you go get those clothes off, boy, because you got to wear those again next Sunday.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
Good point.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
A little friendly tutorial for callers that don't know when it's them. When you have the in your ear, boom, that's you.
Yeah,
You're the one talking.
Or when you hear Brandon say, you're on the air.
Oh, yeah. I've never had a problem, and I'm kind of a dummy myself. But the uniforms kind of take away, there was a dress code, so you had some individual responsibility.
Yeah.
Plus, you were an individual because you had to choose your own clothing, but you were held accountable. Mm-hmm. Now, nobody has to be accountable because, we all look the same. Yeah. So, sure, it's easy on everybody, and, we can buy this, but I'm sure it'll be easier if everybody was just the same out in public anyway also.
Well, I'll tell you what I find interesting about this, among many things, is that there is a new movement in the country. Now, it's a small movement, and Brandon and I recently did a show on it about young people being very supportive of socialism. Okay, but now that there is actually supportive socialist parties on the college campuses. Okay, so these are young people that want socialism. However, I wonder how they would feel about it when you're talking about uniforms, because now they're not going to be able to. When you have uniforms, they can't express their individuality, and so I would like to know where they are, because this is really going to put them to the test. You really want socialism? Well, guess what? Uniforms are uniformed all the time.
Yeah, something tells me they'll only want socialism when it benefits them.
That's exactly right.
All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm a parent. I love the uniforms. My kids wear them. My kids wear them after school a lot of times. A lot of times, they get home from school, they really don't feel like even changing out of clothes. They just wear their uniforms pretty much all day long. My sister lives in Chicago. She spent $2,000 just on just on clothes.
Like not uniforms, but clothes.
Not uniforms, clothes.
Wow.
Just for her daughter to go to school. $2,000 because she wanted 5 pair of pants, different shirts, different outfits, things like that. I was going I spent maybe $100 on all 3 of the kids for new clothes.
Wow.
Yeah, class envy is a big deal too. You're talking about class envy when you don't have a uniform. You've got a lot of issues that could be taking place with peer pressure in the schoolroom setting, because you got one kid that's wearing, old jeans, an old T-shirt, old shoes, sitting next to somebody that's wearing $300, $400 worth of clothes. Now you've got a class envy thing going on.
the secret is that, I mean, she buys these pants and they have rips in them and everything else. She spent $100 on a pair of blue jeans that already has rips in them.
There was a video that was going around on Facebook that was showing how that's actually done.
The guy.
And,
I'm just like flabbergasted because I'm going like, whenever I was in school, we didn't want the pants that had rips in them because if they had rips in them, that means they were old and they were gross.
Yeah,
so
and you were poor.
Jeans. And you were poor, yes. So, I mean, I'm just, and then the crop top shirts and everything else. I'm sitting there going like, I don't want my daughter going to school showing her belly to a teacher, and you hear about these teachers who are pedophiles.
Yeah, not good. Good point. Thanks.
I mean, what's going to happen to these kids?
It'll be all right.
Thank you, though, Mel.
I appreciate your concern. Everything's going to work out all right, though.
We appreciate your call.
Yep. We'll be right back here on Offsides, 232-1542, the Cajun Harley Hotline. All right, welcome back to Offsides, everybody. Thanks for joining us for today's broadcast. We'll be with you for a few more minutes. We're wrapping up the hour talking about school uniforms, getting a lot of different opinions. And what I found to be very interesting is that a lot of the middle-aged or more experienced listeners that are calling in today, who I would have imagined or anticipated they would be all supportive of school uniforms, we're actually getting quite a few that aren't necessarily supportive of it.
Well, they grew up in the time period where they didn't have to wear school uniforms.
Right.
So I'm starting to see now more why they have, a lot of them have the opinion not to wear it. 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
I'm starting to...
Oh, make sure you got your radio turned down for us, please, sir, and go right on ahead.
Who do I talk to?
Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
All right.
Okay, you're on.
Get your radio turned down for us, please, sir, and go right on ahead.
Okay.
All right, buddy. You got your radio turned down? You ready?
I cut my truck off.
Okay.
I was going to say, all these uniforms and stuff, that's the best thing they ever did. Let me tell you why. Yeah, one time I had 6 kids in a private school, Sacred Heart, and it cost me a fortune, and they had to wear uniforms. But you know what that was for? Because some people, the government had to pay for the kids to go to Sacred Heart. There was some kind of deal in school, but they weren't laughed at because they didn't have nothing to wear. They paid for their uniform to where everybody was equal.
Right, right.
You follow me?
No, yes,
oh,
sir,
yeah, we got you, man.
Thank you. All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know, but when I was in school, one of the things I was looking forward to about being an adult was not having people tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And as an adult, paying taxes, it's kind of contrary to have the people that I'm paying salaries tell me what I have to dress my kids for to go to the schools. For a private school, that's a different story. But for public schools, I'm not too keen on that.
So you're opposed to the uniforms in the public schools?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Good point. He's got a good point. Yeah. Listen, he's paying taxes to provide the education. He's paying in. So when you say the public schools are free, they aren't necessarily free.
No.
Okay, we all pay for them. The difference is that everybody pays for them, even if you don't have kids.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
I don't know about the guy before that last guy. I think there's a little conspiracy theory going on there about uniforms and how they were implemented. But I grew up in the era where, I went to private school, Catholic school, so my mother couldn't afford to send us to public Catholic school anymore, and so I went to public school. And, I didn't have a problem with either one of them, but I don't think the kids today need to be wearing uniforms, but I also don't think they should be showing up in crop tops and short skirts and dressing like they're going to the club, you know what I mean? So that was really why I think they implemented they wanted everybody to look alike, but I think a lot of these kids were dressing inappropriately. Yeah. And perhaps that is why the uniform policy was originally implemented, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I didn't have children when they implemented it, so I'm not too aware of what led to it. But I remember, now I'll tell you that there's also a significant difference in what is acceptable in dress code or was acceptable in dress code before they implemented the uniforms. For example, when I went to high school, there was no shorts whatsoever. You could not wear shorts under any circumstances. But my wife, Elena, went to high school in San Diego, and you could wear shorts, tank top, flip-flops. It didn't matter. So where you are played a big significant role as well.
Yeah, and I think, when I grew up, I'm a little bit older than a middle-aged man, but when I grew up, it was pretty much, you could wear pretty much what you wanted. You had your hipsters and your hippies and your goth and all those kind of kids floating around in different cliques and stuff. So I think it really depends, like you said, on the part of the country that you grew up in, and also, what the rules were. But also, for the record, I'm not the smartest, sharpest tool in the shed sometimes, but sometimes the boop doesn't come to you. And that's why people ask, am I on?
Oh, all right.
It doesn't always give you that little signal.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, thank you. All right, 232-1542. We go back to the Cajun Harley hotline. All right, caller.
They're really mad. They're really mad about
Go
that.
right on ahead.
Hey, am I on?
Yes, you're on. You're on.
Hey, so I think it's a good thing, because whenever kids go to school and they wear a uniform, whenever they go to and get a job, they got to wear a uniform.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's a good point.
Good training for that.
Yeah. Get them used to maybe having to wear a uniform later on, or currently when they go and get a job.
Yes, sir. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, 232-1542. All right, caller, you are on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the uniform so much. I went to public school up until 8th grade when we did not have uniforms.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a popularity contest of who had the best clothes, and I could see the reason why they went to uniforms. And in high school, I went to a private high school where we had uniforms, and I thought it was great. You don't have to worry about what you're going to wear the next day to school. You don't have to worry about competing with, the Joneses for back in the day when I was in school, the Jabot jeans and Michael Jordan shoes and all of that good stuff. It just put everybody on an even playing field, and you didn't have to worry about bullying or kids getting ridiculed for their clothes at school when they're there to learn and not be a popularity contest.
Yeah, I hear you. See, when I went to high school, it was Jordache. Okay, the rich kids had Jordache, and everybody else, like my friends and I, we all wore just Levi's, and that was all there was to it. But yeah, you've got the class envy situation, and young people, especially in that age group, they're pretty sensitive.
All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hey guys.
Hey.
When I was younger, I always had a problem with I couldn't wear shorts to school, and the girls could wear skirts, so I didn't get it. So one day I wore shorts to school anyway. When they told me to go home and change, I came back wearing a skirt, and I got suspended.
Now you see, nowadays, if you came back wearing a skirt, they wouldn't be able to suspend you. You could sue them.
Yeah, for discrimination.
For discrimination, that's exactly right, because you could claim that you had gender dysfunction, dysphoria, gender dysphoria, and you can wear a dress if you want to now. How about that?
That is so true. It's the way that things have changed.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe they should wear uniforms at school. When I was younger and went to school, there was no uniforms, and there was a lot of kids beat up because of the type of clothes they were wearing, shoes being stolen, those kind of things. But I also believe that the staff should wear uniforms. So you know the difference between a teacher and somebody just on the facility.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting as well. I wonder if there's any teachers, we're running out of time, but I would like to know what the teachers think about the uniforms and whether or not they are supportive of it. But what if they also had to wear uniforms?
Well, I mean, I know now it's a private school, but the one that my mom teaches at Lafayette Christian Academy, they have to wear uniforms.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the public.
Yeah.
Okay. Private and Catholic and religious schools, they have their own set of rules, but I'm talking about public. I'd like to know what the teachers think about that.
All right, well, unfortunately, we do not have any more time left, so we're going to have to leave the conversation there. Coming up, your Fox News update at the top of the hour, and Mark Levin here on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.